Hey everybody, this is Andy with Patterson Adjuster Training. In this video, we're going to talk scoping insulation. So whether you're doing virtual inspections as a desk adjuster or as a field adjuster, a very common scenario is water damage to the ceiling, which compromises the drywall and you have to cut it out. So when you cut it out, insulation is going to come with it. And so the same area of drywall you're cutting out, you'll need to include that for insulation. And you may be thinking, well, there may not be any insulation in the ceiling. Well, 99% of the time you're going to have insulation in the ceiling, especially if it's a newer home. I don't know of any home I've ever been into that didn't have any insulation in the ceiling at all. Now, some of them may have inadequate insulation in the ceiling, but generally you're going to find insulation in the ceiling. Now, most of the time, you're going to find that ceilings have blown-in insulation. Batt insulation is really for walls. Now, that's not to say you won't find batt insulation in the ceiling, but oftentimes what you're going to see is you're going to have a layer of blown-in insulation, and then for whatever reason, they throw batt insulation on top of it. So you could have a combination of both. Now, generally, when you're talking about cutting out drywall, you're talking about water. And so the insulation gets wet, so you need to replace it. So whenever you're looking at ceiling damage, you're always going to include blown-in insulation because 9 times out of 10, that's what is sitting on top of that drywall. Now in Xactimate, when you're estimating blown-in insulation, it goes by depth or R value for the insulation in the ceiling or in the attic. How do you figure that out? Do you go in the attic and measure it? Well, if you did that on every claim that you had ceiling damage on, that may slow you down. If you have time and you want to go up there and measure it, go for it. But just keep in mind, over time, that insulation starts settling. So what I do when I'm looking at ceiling damage that requires drywall to be cut out, I use the R value map that the government provides, and then that's what I assume that house has in it. And you're thinking, what the heck is that? Well, EnergyStar.gov is a government website that shows the recommended R values for homes across the U.S. depending on where you live. So in Oklahoma, you may have a different recommended R value for ceilings and attics than you would in Minnesota. So on my computer, I have a screenshot of the government's recommended R values for insulation. So whenever I'm cutting out insulation in Oklahoma, then I look at the recommended R value, and that's what I include on my estimate. I don't go up in the attic and measure it every time. I just go with what the recommended R value is for that area, and that's what I use on my estimate. Now, if you're a letter of the law adjuster who says, well, that's overscoping the loss, you may be putting insulation back in the ceiling that's deeper or has a higher R value than what's up there. Well, the contractor should have put the recommended R value in the ceiling. And so you're really not talking much money. And you got to think over time that insulation starts settling. So the depth of the insulation is kind of a moving target. But anyway, that's what I use, and I've never had a file kicked back. And I think if you stick with that, you'll be fine when you're estimating your ceiling damage. Now, I wanted to let everybody know that I'm coming out with a self-paced, interactive, virtual training course which teaches everything about scoping, everything about estimating, including photos, labeling, how to measure a room. And the training is based upon an actual claim file. What starts the claim? A loss report. So this training starts with the loss report, which you have to start building the estimate in Xactimate. And then you're going to go get the measurements. You're going to do the diagram. You're going to do the photos. You're going to write the estimate, put the right line items in. And I'm with you every step of the way. And I'm going to let you struggle through your estimate first. But then at the end, we're going to do a debrief where all of the pieces will start making sense. And so if you're off on your estimate after the debrief, you may find, well, I need to go back and change my estimate. So my philosophy is the learning is in the struggle. So I'm going to let you struggle with your estimate before we do our debrief, because I want you to try to put the line items in yourself, because you have your own thought process as to how you're building the estimate. Then after we do our debrief, you may think, shoot, I should have thought about that, or I should have did it this way. Then you can correct your estimate before you finalize it. So make sure you subscribe to the channel because I will do an announcement when that course is ready. Anyway, guys, I hope you found this video helpful, and I will see you in the next one.